Hey everyone, very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all are joining us globally. Yes, I am Parth Varu, Events and Program Manager for Microsoft Reactor India. And yes, I welcome you all for episode today with Prasanna Kumar. So, before we start our today's event, let's go through our code of conduct. We are all here to learn together, participate together. So, please be respectful of other people's views, understanding the differences, be kind and considerate in a way we all engage. Yes, we do encourage you all to participate, ask questions. Please drop all your questions in the comment section and we'll pick it up from there. Now, yes, I would like to bring in Prasanna, our guest speaker for today's event. Hi Prasanna, how are you doing?
I'm fine, Parth. Thank you so much. How are you doing?
All great, Prasanna. It's raining all the time, all the way in India. So where are you joining from?
So currently, I'm joining this session from Bangalore. I hope it
Wow,
also looks like to be raining. So
Bangalore's perfect time to brew a coffee and get down with Gen AI solutions and
yeah,
sessions like this. Yep. So yes, Prasanna, the floor is all yours. I'll bring your screen up now.
sure.
Yep.
Okay. So are we good to go?
Yes, we are good to go, Prasanna.
Okay. Thanks, Parth, and for special regards to Microsoft Reactor Forum in terms of bringing and sharing the knowledge from multiple people. And really appreciate Microsoft being taking this opportunity and providing me an opportunity as well. So this is a quite interesting journey that this time I thought let me take a little bit about um, there are lots of things happening on generative AI, but I'm not going to talk too technical per se, but wanted to show how generative AI solutions can be developed better, looking at long term, looking at uh, ethical related things, sustainability, and all those aspects of it. So that's where I came up with this session where to talk about leveraging design thinking to enhance generative AI solutions. So by the way, I'm
Sounds
Prasanna,
interesting.
and yeah.
Floor is
So
all yours. Yep.
yeah, thank you. So I'm Prasanna. So many of you might be aware, some of you might not be aware. So glad to be part of this session today. And I'm a strong advocate in terms of cloud data analytics and CX point of view. And I have held several positions in the past managing analytics and data, fintech, and other areas. So currently, I work with Capco. So we are a consulting provider in terms of technology, cloud data, and analytics. So I'm heading the data and analytics practice. So with that, I would like to set the agenda so that the participants are well aware. And I would also like to add a note that so all these are all basis my several interactions with many leaders like you and what I have gone through in the past, and some of them where I have read through many of the data, went hands-on related information, so basis which I thought let me put across. So all of these are information. So if there is any relevancy, non-relevancy, please do excuse me. I'm just putting it across. So we will talk about what is Gen AI and a bit on how can one can understand what is maturity model in terms of to assess what is the current state and how can they move forward. And primary key theme of this session is on design thinking. And from there, I would like to talk a little bit about what Microsoft Fabric, how does it affect in terms of design thinking. I will walk you through some solutions and services, how can it be made better. Then I will talk a little about what is startups and developers. This is one of the main key which I thought to let you know what are the opportunities around in this real world. And we'll also look at how can we come up with a well architected framework, looking at how the LLMs and security, reliability, and all this perspective, and couple of industry use cases, and then I will leave on to Q&A. So happy to address any questions there. Yeah. So firstly, let me start with in terms of this quote, right? Because I really loved this quote. Somebody, while I was talking to him, so he just mentioned that we are in the first innings of a 1,000 inning game, and there is so much to be figured out. So it means a lot, right? Today, Gen AI has been there. I believe it's going to be about some couple of years, but more than adoption, it is being pushed across every nook and corner, every company, whether it is organization, whether it's an individual, we are moving across. So that's where I just put this thought that we are just scratching the surface of what generative AI can achieve. So before even going in, so I thought put some pointers on what exactly are we moving towards, right? So I looked at this lots of studies from Gartner and IDC. So what does it looks like? So basically, it all boils down to value and how can you be able to better implement a solution for a long term and gain business value out of it and also the customer value, right? So I just looked at recently, just about a couple of days before, I just saw an article in terms of, it says 24 June, but where India is transforming in terms of the AI expansion is like 6 billion by 2027. So this is enormously high. And if you look at globally, where we look at 6 billion worth of commitment over the next 3 years per se. And simply in a layman terms, so if somebody is investing, let's say $1, what is it, the expectation, the return on investment looks to be pretty awesome. It is 2x plus, right? So it's a study which is conducted and says $3.5 per $1. And in terms of value realization, this is also very important, not just because today Gen AI looks to be boom and all of this, but yeah, what is the value realization of it? So as per the study, it looks like 14 months it takes for any organization to realize a return on investment in terms of an AI. So this to start with, primarily today, generative AI has been, or in Gen AI, the focus was starting with customer experience and how can you increase the growth, how can you optimize and all of this. But the key theme, as I said today, we are talking about design thinking, right? So it's all about creative thinking, problem solving. So if you see where actually the workforce are being deployed, so it's, if you look at this, you can see the critical thinking is almost 62 percentage, and data analysis another one, prompt engineering. So this is where most workforce skills are being evaluated in terms of an adoption per se. And where are the resources are also being deployed? That's another area where, because there's a survey which is conducted, says what does your company plan to invest or reinvest the time savings generated by tools like Gen AI providing. So it's, you see here, it's like more of driving adoptions and then improving operations across the organizations and developing new products. So these are all signs of larger growth, larger picture, which anybody be keen at from a business point of view. And that said, we should also look at in terms of what are the barriers, right? So today, finding value has been the highest barrier. Like, how does an organization can estimate and demonstrate value? So, and then, do we have a right talents? Are they being skilled across? Do we have right technologies? Do we have right data? So that is where the barriers, if you look at, they are pretty large enough that, as you can see, the first one is it's 49 percentage. The data is almost 39 percentage. So looking at this, so we need to address all of this per se, right? So with that, so generative AI, I know most of you are already aware that what generative AI is all about. So it's a larger subset of artificial intelligence. So where today Gen AI creates audio, text, video, and so on. I thought let me put it from the perspective of people coming in newly, that what do we have? So artificial intelligence stands at the top of the pyramid. Then you have the machine learning in terms of understanding human behaviors. Then look at deep learning, going much more deeper in terms of understanding the neural networks, and then the generative AI perspective. So I was actually there are today lots of I would say how do one assess where am I in the gamut, right? To understand am I doing the right thing or where should I be pushing? So I thought let me put across this Gen AI maturity model, very simple one to assess what are you today in terms of are you simply using kind of tools to see like a chat GPT and those things. So that's where we call it as ad hoc. And if you have defined a vision and then to basis that vision you are able to do some POCs and get some systems live, maybe some operations better, so that I call it as formalized. And then more strategic where you're tying these value against companies overall goals, and then you go a little bit forward in terms of innovating and bringing some kind of a competitive advantage, bringing value to the customers, bringing value to the companies. So these are four different stages I thought of, so that it gives one to assess on which specific stage the company is in, and then they can progress accordingly. So this is an interesting evaluation framework. So I just loved this infographics from DataStax, right? So they call it as I love AI, where it starts from contextualization, like in terms of the design, uh, in terms of learnings, in terms of how they are responsive, from laggards to a leader, right? So how can you be going forward? So on a four different uh, lens, which they look at it as contextualization, architecture, and the talents and the trust. So if you look at the architecture point of view, so do we have right data? Do we have right ecosystem in place? Do we have domain specific related details? And if you were to look at culture, do we have right talents? Are they being trained? Are they not being valued? What kind of responsibility which they are giving it? So which comes in terms of ethics, and then the trust, right? So how are we able to manage data privacy, PI informations, governance? All of this is a very good framework. So I believe it is available. I can share the link in another view, but this seems to be very very interesting. I thought if one has to evaluate, go deep dive on it, this framework really helps, and it really helped me to look at certain aspects of how one has to move forward from a head hoc to an innovative approach from a leader point of view. So, what is today Gen AI is created impacts? Right? So, meaning there are so many of them. I just thought let's make it simplified, not show too many different categories. So, but I thought industries which are currently moving across where Gen AI is more actively being pursued is like pharma, energy, marketing, and healthcare, financial institutions. So these are very actively being pursued. And what I see, the how are they being utilized in the current trend perspectives, like looking at augmenting the content, creating a new content per se, doing exploratory analysis, generating synthetic data for you to be able to test, validate, kind of using a real time, real kind of data, supporting in software developments with an AI assisted tools, summarizations, code modernizations. These are some which have seen that where there is a repeated patterns of Gen AI usage. So that's where I thought, okay, let me see what is the real impact and use cases of Gen AI to just start with it, right? So there are furthermore data which I would like to present, but I thought let's set the context in terms of what generative AI or Gen AI is all about, what is the value it is trying to bring, and where are we towards current usage of Gen AI. And we looked at kind of a maturity model to understand and how to assess if one organization needs to really pursue where are they in the journey. Yeah. So now I will move on the core theme of it in terms of how to leverage design thinking generative AI. So it's all about, I would say, how can you be able to look at solving the right problem? It's not about right solution. So it's identifying the right problem, then you solve for it, right? Before stepping into it, I thought let me put a note on what is a good design per se, right? So Basis my earlier work experience and discussions with multiple clients where I've already worked with, and I'm being part of customer experience association. So we thought, what is a good design? So a user-centric focus, right? So a user-centric focus is, it's not about just saying, okay, we understand your solutions, we understand your pain points. It's about understanding the behaviors, patterns, pain points to arrive onto a solid understanding of what is the actually the problem, right? Then pick those problems. You might get tons of problems, but you need to be able to prioritize them, then solve for it. Then looking at focusing on outcomes rather than features, right? So outcome, what is it? It's about creating values, right? So how far you have created an impact, how far you have created a value for the end customer by utilizing a solution, not by just saying we have 50 different features and it can solve A, B, C, D problems. So it's focusing on outcomes will really add larger value to ecosystem. That way there is a creation of trust through which you will be able to make larger impact. And also more from the perspective, keeping it as simple as clear, right? So I've seen products where you just have to navigate several different pages or menus, and it looks like to be so tedious. So, but the tagline from the website, it calls out, we are simple and we are clear, right? So it has to mean what we communicate in our marketing communications or even in our website notes. So it has to be clear and it should be in concise, in agreement with what do we build the products. It has to be simple and clear. And also following an established design process makes much easier when you look at from a larger product developments, where you don't need to go from step 1 to step 10, right? So if you follow a structured approach, solving the problem, identifying what it is all about, what are the different tools, what people, and all of this, so that helps you to get the right path and for a stable solution. And not to forget, as we are discussing about Gen AI, so the sustainability and ethics really matters in terms of how do we handle the customer data, and with that, how do we make it more sustainable? How do we make it more better products? So I thought to first put across this note, what does a good design means? So now we will talk about what does design thinking, right? So largely design thinking is thought from the perspective of designing products, designing websites, or multiple things, right? But what it actually means, so I try to see from per se of, if you were to get a Gen AI product in place, or if you want to talk to a customer, understand what do they do. So this is a great way of to talk to them and understand. So this is from interaction design ideo. This visual is from, and the ideos Tim Brown. So where he says design thinking is all about bringing in the real deliverable, which is creativity, right? So building something which is uh, good, building something which is being better, and as well as creating a value for the end customer. So it goes through about 5 different phases. It starts with empathizing, so we call it as empathize. So what does empathize mean? So you might have a number of requests coming from, hey, I need to solve customer problem. So what does a customer problem look like? Whether is it a problem we are saying on the product, is it something you're trying to solve, something outside of the product, communications, marketing? So all of this, right? You need to get to understand what does actually the problem is. So that is where the empathize phase comes into picture. So clearly understanding different perspectives of in real world, not about talking something which is okay, I can do this, I look at it, go with open minded and try to solve those, understand those problems. Then the second phase is about defining, where you define the exact problem as you understood, not what you think, right? This is very, very important. Most times people understand, but they represent differently. So that is why it is very important to define what is told is being represent, not that what we thought. Then moving from there, so the ideate, where you try to brainstorm within the organization team, and also co-creation is also pretty important, which I would call it out, where involving customer during the process of identifying, bringing in different ideas of solving these problems. which gives you much more better products, better solutions, better service. How do we do this? Then we move to the prototype, where if you were to look at an MVP, so how we can look at this? So prioritizing. So MVP is all about prioritizing, right? So you can't build all 100 features in one go. So prioritizing what is key from the customer value perspective. So you can build, and then it starts with test and implementation. So where you put onto the real world and then check. So if you see, all of them are iterative processes, right? So where after you test, what did you learn? So those learnings can again come back to identifying, is it the actual the problem we are trying to solve? So you can again rethink. Again, from what does the projects created? Are there any different ideas? Can you get a new ideas which you can implement in prototype? Can you get test some real world problems? Again, you can go back to problem defining. So design thinking, if you look at, as I said, creativity, but it's more of iterative approach, where uh, you look at each phase and define the problem statements, and then brainstorm it, and then go and test and implement. So this, I would try to see how in the next few slides we'll also see how we implement this along with uh, in a real world, how to look at this. I thought, let me put across what is design thinking is all about, right? So, and that is a question. So, why design thinking? So, we spoke about in the good design principle. What is a good design? So, understanding the um real world problems, that's where it starts with user centric focus. So, it's all about focusing and getting the real world problems, then create a systematic approach to be able to encourage that creativity by coming up with structured approach, understanding the problem, and brainstorm those ideas. So that is where your enhanced problem solving comes into picture. Then how can you be better adopt and scale? So today uh, the study says that, as we have seen in the first few slides, it takes 14 months to get that value and realization, or maybe return on investment, right? So, how can it be scalable? How can it be better improved? So, are we solving the right problems and all those? And also mitigating the risks and biases, right? So, Gen AI is all about bias. You have hallucinations, you have so many other things. So, how can we mitigate those? And then collaboration. So finally, end of the day, how do you promote cross-functional idea in terms of the AI project? So it shouldn't be worked in silos, and all has to come together. So the graph, if you see at the bottom, so it's all about creative problems. So you start with a divergent thinking, lots of problems, lots of ideas. Then you narrow down to your convergent thinking in terms of narrowing down what problem are you wanting to solve and how do you want to solve it. I thought to put this principle in place. So with that, I would also like to, because I worked with multiple solutions. So this time I thought, let me take this opportunity also to um, represent Microsoft products where I feel there is a greater momentum by how can we emphasize, how can you infuse this design thinking within the Microsoft ecosystems, right? So now, so this is from Microsoft Fabric and Azure AI, where I have used in the past. I've been hands-on on Sol of most of the times. So there are different parts of it. So it starts with the data, right? So if you have right data, I believe you have most of the informations associated with it, and you would be able to deliver the right solutions to the customer. So that's where the solution tries to enhance data insights. You get lots of data in terms of your structured, unstructured, and get clarity out of it. And then how can you build better models? How can you be able to go faster to the market? How would you be able to analyze customer interactions, customize your models? So that is where Microsoft Fabric and Azure AI plays a huge role. So I thought to bring this so that you would get to a perspective on what we can do with the platform. So Microsoft platform is Fabric is all about, it's a SaaS platform. It's a one single unified data and analytics. And Azure AI is try to help you in terms of support on Gen AI and AI related programs. So I thought let me take one quick video of it just to get this. Many of you would have seen or might not be. So I thought let me just play it once.
If you want to bring custom Gen AI experiences to your apps so that users can interact with them using natural language, the better the quality and recency of the data used to ground responses, the more relevant and accurate the generated outcome. The challenge, of course, is that your data may be sitting across multiple clouds, in your own data center, and also on the edge. Here's where the complete analytics platform, Microsoft Fabric, helps you to unify data wherever it lives at unlimited scale without you having to move it. It incorporates a logical multi-cloud data lake, one lake, for unified data storage and access, and separately provides a real-time hub optimized for event-based streaming data, where changed data capture feeds can be streamed from multiple cloud sources for analysis in real time without the need to poll your data. Then, with your data unified, data professionals can work together in a collaborative workspace to ingest and transform it, analyze it, and also endorse it as they build quality data sets. And when used with Microsoft Purview, this can be achieved with an additional layer of security, where you can classify and protect your schematized data with protections flowing as everyone from your engineers, data analysts, to your business users works with data in the Fabric workspace. Keeping grounding data for your LLMs up to date is also made easier by being able to act on it with real-time intelligence. For example, you might have a product recommendation engine on an e-commerce site, and using real-time intelligence, you can create granular conditions to listen for changes in your data, like new stock coming in, and update data pipelines feeding the grounding data for your large language models. So now, whereas before the Gen AI may not have had the latest inventory data available to it to ground responses, with real-time intelligence, generative responses can benefit from the most real-time, up-to-date information so you don't lose out on sales. And as you work with your data, Gen AI experiences are infused throughout Fabric. In fact, Copilot in Fabric experiences are available for all Microsoft Fabric workloads to assist you as you work. And once your data set is complete, connecting it from Microsoft Fabric to ground large language models in your Gen AI apps is made easy with Azure AI Studio, where you can bring in data from one lake seamlessly and choose from some of the most sophisticated large language models hosted in Azure to build custom AI experiences on your data. All of which is only made possible when you unify your data and act on it with Microsoft Fabric.
So that would have given a perspective on what Microsoft ecosystem, the Fabric ecosystem, can deliver. So what I did is this is something which I did sometime earlier, but I just refreshed it with Microsoft Fabric platform. That how can we integrate design thinking with Gen AI using Microsoft solutions, right? So I thought to put it in order of our creative thinking. So if somebody wants to start with an empathize phase, right, it's all about understanding the behaviors and pain points. So on the side, I look at what kind of a solutions can it support. So we have Microsoft real-time analytics, looking at like say your social media feed or customer data or any other data which you wish to bring it. And the Power BI can show the trends and patterns of to understand what kind of problems are we looking at to understand what is the real world is all about. So that is where Fabric, real-time analytics, and Power BI. There might be other tools, but I thought let me put it in a much more simpler way, broader tools which can give. And from a defined perspective, where you bring in data into the lakehouse, once you bring in the data, identify what are all the patterns again looks like, whether it is an unstructured data, structured data, or semi-structured, whatever different forms of it, and then building a lakehouse through which you can uh, understand what kind of problems which we are trying to analyze through, let's say, a data science, Azure ML, or doing a Power BI, again, Azure AI Studio to build models which could really tune and understand what data set, which is all about and what is the actual real world problems which we try to bring. And there is whiteboards which can be used for collaborations point of view and implement open AI. So these are, I thought, more larger perspective that some might be useful depending on the use cases. Then how can we do a prototype quickly is like you do the data engineering, then you build apps maybe through Power Apps. Then if you want to show it to end customer, then we can put it into Azure DevOps using the DevOps practice and AKS your Kubernetes if you wish to test through a Docker. Then the test phase, again, the AKS and the data science to understand what kind of a problem, what is the statement. Then you look at monitoring the solution. Is it working as per the needs? Then you look at implementing solutions at scale, right? So where Fabric platform completely does data and analytics, then you have Purview for governance, then you look at AI Studio for generating the building the models, testing it, and all of this. The good thing is that which I've seen the Copilot, which is adding a larger value to larger ecosystem, which I would say where it's a low code, no code kind of setup where you just provide your natural language however you want to do. Then the Copilot builds even the codes, helps you supports in multiple aspects of managing the entire ecosystem. I thought this might give you a larger picture on how can we look at multiple solutions, how do we go face by face, what it can do. There might be many other tools and technologies which might be involved, but I thought let me make it as simple as possible. So from that point of view, this integrating the creativity, which is the main uh, outcome of the design thinking into the Gen AI. So I thought to put this across. And if you were to talk about opportunities, right? So if today there are lots of AI startups which I have seen, and it's nook and corner. Every other day you will find new branches coming up. But where do I see opportunities is like as initially I was talking about the area like healthcare, area like pharma, product developments, and today I'm seeing even the fraud, cybersecurity, and sustainability. ESG is one area where there is a tremendous growth. So companies are people who are looking to uh, entrepreneurship, right? So there are so many opportunities which are available per se. And yeah, Microsoft and many other forums where there are startup programs be able to support you in your journey, understanding what is your value system, what is your ecosystem, the value you create for your end customers. So I thought to put this slide. There are multiple opportunities, but I've seen some of these are very crucial, and it is blowing like anything. So I thought let me put this across. And also, not from startups point of view, there are so many things are happening from experiencing the better experience for developers and other data related aspects. Yeah, not only the data, right? So multiple different roles which are getting added. So here I just picked up three where if you're looking at a scenario where a data pro and the business analyst who comes in, then you have a data science from Fabric, then you have Azure OpenAI and Power BI. So different scenarios to improvise and also to provide better experience for developers as well, right? So if you start with the Gen AI journey within your organization, so one thing is how can the developers can build codes faster? How can they be able to make use of the current Gen AI tools? How can they be better able to test so that the productivity gets increased? So that way, I believe there are lots of opportunities available, so which can be consumed through the platform. And this is something usually many we would have seen the cloud where the well architected framework many of them would have already seen. I just thought more from a Gen AI perspective, how can a well architected framework look like in terms of reliability if you were to look at, so how can we identify the large language models observability, what can we do redundancy, how can you become a more fault tolerant, so that enhances or that increases the reliability point of view. If you were to say from securities, how can we secure the ecosystem, how do we protect, how do we comply, so that's where your Microsoft Purview comes into pinch. How can we have guardrails? Then if you were to look at operational excellence in terms of how can you track the number of requests coming in holistically, how do you understand the observability, what are the issues which are coming across, how can we have an efficient deployment of the model. So there are Azure DevOps if you were to talk about. So how can we do better automate? And then from a cost point of view, that is also pretty important, right? So how can you bring in much robust models in terms of how can you fine tune them, whether to choose a public model or whether to use a private model, or how do you understand the patterns basis which how can you optimize the cost. Then from an efficiency point of view, like how do you look at what is your target realistic performance efficiency you are looking at it, whether you want to do larger optimization. That's why I said efficiency via optimizations. How do you look at larger demands? If a system has to grow at scale, what can you do further? So I thought to put my thoughts here in terms of well-architected framework more. So I may not go deep inside it. Thought this would be much useful to start small and then grow at scale. So we're almost getting to it. So I thought also put it across if companies wanting to focus on a real world business problems, right? So how to start with it? So it is to by this is from Gartner. It was quite interesting when I studied just about a week before. Found it to be interesting, so I thought let me pick this up and then exhibit. So it is about 4 pillars in terms of an AI strategy, right? First, you have a clear vision in terms of aligning with the business goals, aligning with what is it actually you plan to deploy, how does it benefit, how will you measure the success, whether you're solving a smaller problem, whether you're solving a larger problem, what does the customer look like. So establishing a clear vision for the AI strategy, right? And how do you create value? So in terms of removing the barriers. So that is in terms of how do you find out what problems are you facing? Maybe it is the model doesn't work properly, or do you have enough talents to be able to bring up your solution faster to the market, or is there any regulatory? So looking at all of those, how do you create value, right? And yeah, the regulatory comes into the risk. Uh, so, do we have to adhere any standard compliance within the country or any other? If you're serving globally, so what are the other regulatory needs? And then looking at your technology, whether do we have the right technology, or are we just using a smaller portion of the tools? How can we grow faster? There are several tools today available, and then adoption. So adoption is all about prioritization, right? So in terms of what goals are you trying to pursue, does it align with your initial AI strategy, how can you get an win-win situation between within the team externally. So I found it to be very interesting, this 4 pillar strategy, which I believe makes it much simpler as well if you were to target and start building something basis if you want to bring up the strategy and building your Gen AI solutions. Yeah. So this is another good one. I just thought because many people were asking like, where do I start my journey? Like I have some understanding on Gen AI. I know what is tools, what is LLMs, and what all of these things, right? So I thought this is a good slide by Databricks anyway. So you start small, right, where you implement small amounts of like a prompts injection in it, and then specializing, identify what is the behavior looks like. Then you go into your RAG-based general models in terms of giving the specific context, corpus of a data. Maybe it's a financial data, maybe it's healthcare-related data, bringing a whole corpus of informations and then making it more relevant. Or do you want to build something specific, fine-tuning on a specific model or an LLMs? And finally, the pre-training, completely you can take up any open source model or a private model and train completely from scratch. So that is more service providers who wish to look at it. I thought to put this so that it makes more relevant. So don't have to leapfrog from one stage to another. We can start small and then grow bigger. And also I want to press on this responsible AI principles. This is also a very good slide by another partner where I looked at what are the key principles you were to look at, it's like fair, right? In terms of whether do we have an human interactions, whether do you have an accountability, privacy, social. So I thought so many different aspects. It is available in the internet. If somebody wants to just study it, you can just put the header and search for it. So it helps you really to come up with a responsible AI theme, right? So which I found to be very useful in my past discussions, and also while developing solutions or when you providing services to the end customers as well, not only developing the products. So this is a complete kind of a DevOps related model, but more of a Gen AI lifecycle where you understand, start with data, determining what kind of a data you need, how do you design, how do you parameterize it, and then start building the code and then testing and deploy and then operate, right? So more of a Gen AI life cycle, which I thought just to see how it helps you people who are the development side of it. So now we will move into some use cases which I felt that which is currently moving in a larger shape. So sustainability. So sustainability is your environment, social, and governance. There are so many different aspects which uh, it's more prevalent in out of the country, but right now I've seen larger scope, which is many financial institutions who plan to monitor this sustainability, show plans, so how Gen AI can help. So there are multiple different use cases, summarization, building bots, telling them about what kind of a regulatory related compliance which they need to adhere to, what kind of a reportings they need to look into, and then how are they monitoring the reports. So I thought this slide will give you much more perspective. And also I'm more data enthusiastic, so from that point of view I thought let me take a slide on how Gen AI can be much more better. If you look at classifications, we spoke about earlier synthetic data generation, we spoke about quality data, quality automation. So there are multiple aspects of Gen AI being implemented today. Not that every company looks at it, but it is going to happen, I believe. The younger generations and the professionals have to grow to much larger perspective, get to know all of this. That will give you a better edge in terms of your current organizations where you can prove your skills. If you wish to plan your next career movement, so it has lots of things to plan across. So this is on the value chain on payments, because I've been looking into financial institutions, so looking at compliance, onboarding, development, lots of different opportunities available. And this is customer experience, one of my closer to art in terms of, because I've been largely working earlier in terms of how can we improvise customer experience management. So that way Gen AI has lots of scope in it. So I thought to put this across also to talk about it. And this is one last slide. So I just would like, I believe we are almost near reaching our time. I want to leave out some Q&A. So this is a quite interesting one which I found from Glenn Cow, where they spoke about uh, how the human is being involved in different stages. So I thought let me put it across into how we can map AI and human roles, kind of a decision making. So in your x-axis, it's about level of how human autonomy is low and high, and in terms of why level of AI autonomy, right? So different quadrants where we said who has control. So whether it is human control, like say if you look at quadrant one, it is human over the loop. So where can we do where completely human has to control it, like say your quality control, quality assurance, doing content moderation. So from that, human is element is more. Where can we have a shared vision like human and AI? So human in the loop in terms of AI assisted hirings, campaigns, and so on. And the quadrant three talks about human out of the loop, where human intervention is pretty low, but AI can take, for example, your recommendation engines, right? Where it automatically looks at your past history and then recommends that this is something which could be useful. And from an enterprise like email filtering, just thought to make it more relevant, I put very simple use cases. And then human on the loop, right? Where this is like your smart homes where you just go and switch on and it automatically gets, where if you want to reduce even your AC temperature, you can do it. So it's always human on the loop. And also like a self checkout systems in any kind of a retail environment. So this is more clearer. So with that note, I would end with the statement that start looking at building with AI. This is going to be much larger perspective. There are a lot more coming up. but always designed with the human in the heart. At the end of the day, it's all about humans, right? So we need to direct, we need to understand what are the potential benefits, value, and also the harms it can create. So from that, I wish to take a pause from here and thought, okay, let me also add some useful resources. I thought people who are pursuing further opportunities, so there are certifications. If you look at, there is an Azure AI fundamentals, which can know about generative AI perspective. There is an AI engineer. There are a few more others links which I have put here, but we will also share it in the YouTube or any other mediums. And with that, I would like to thank all of you for taking time today. I hope it might have given a perspective on how to think more creatively. How can we look at different tools and technologies while building it? What to look out in terms of your responsibilities, creating values. How can you grow at scale? So this might have put a perspective. I just thought, okay, let me throw a seed, and then probably it can grow at a much larger level. So let me look at some questions which I can answer. I'm just passing off from here. Just a second. Stop screen. Yeah. Okay. So Partha, do we have any questions? Oh, because I have not seen anything as of now. Any questions, Parth?
It was a wonderful and exciting session. Thank you,
Okay.
Prasanna, for this. Yes, there is one question from
Hmm.
Senthil Kumar.
Hmm.
So, Gen AI are mostly in use cases space or in proof of concept phase. Do you think it's because of LLMs manipulating contextual data, or the industry is waiting to get mature?
Okay. So if I understand correctly, the question it's about whether LLM is manipulating, right? It's not about manipulation. It's more about how these datas are being brought inside. Because if you look at, there are many open source LLMs, there are private, there are public LLMs. With that, more data are being pursued. And just if you can bring that question once again, Parth, the last piece of it. Yeah, industry is it is already getting starting to mature, right? Because there are lots of use cases has come, as you have seen in the presentations. I have spoke about many use cases where it is getting to much larger maturity, but I agree that we are still at a very early stage of the innings. As the first slide, which I called it, we are at the first innings of it, right? There are larger innings to play, but yes, this is going to be more cracking in the coming years to come.
Okay, so he says like, is it like precisely is the security being the issue?
Security is major portion of it, but I believe today the tools have been much more larger perspective where security is being addressed. It is all about top-down approach, right? Where you define that vision and how do you envision that product has to be shipped, what kind of fairness which you can bring during this processes, how can you handle the PIA related data, all of this. It's not only about security, it's a whole ecosystem, but security plays a huge role because you're going to play with your customer data.
So there is one more question from Vinod.
Okay.
He says like, from your experience so far, how much of Gen AI is being used in safety applications?
Good question. So, I have not been largely involved in safety applications, but I've seen, if you've seen just the human, the AI mapping, which I've done, right, which is in the first quadrant, human over the loop. So, where people are very much involved during the AI processes. And, but let me tell you the safety, for example, in oil and gas, this I have worked in oil and gas, if we were to look at there are lots of opportunities to tell them about how to maneuver within the facility, what kind of a security guidelines which you need to know. So I have seen this happening. So this is going to grow enormously, but I'm not dedicatedly work, but I have understanding of working in the oil and gas related environment.
So yes, Jayashree says that You would need Avis for that.
I'm not sure what is EVIS means because too many people use different acronyms. Probably if you can elaborate it, please excuse
Okay.
me on that.
Okay. So there is a question from. So he says, like, as I am from my agriculture family, I am thinking of building my own AI to find out the quality of vegetables. What is your suggestion? Okay.
Oh, that's a great question. Putting us on the spot. Yeah, yeah. Like. Let me tell you. So I have seen probably not in India. Probably I might not be aware as well. But there are countries where they wish to use AI in terms of scanning and like the fertilizers, the effort, how much of fertilizers they are being feeding in when this irrigation and all it's been there, but the outcome of the product, right? How can it be better assessed? Is it in a good quality? Whether through laser scanning, right? So there are multiple opportunities which are available. I have not gone deep dive on it, but I see there is a larger scope in agriculture industry because of the quality which they need to bring in, and also the crops when they grow, how much it is being growing, and how much what you can sell for. There is a larger scope which I see. That's really a big question. Please evaluate those options. Meaning that's a good point which I should also go and evaluate. That's a learning for me.
So Jayashree says, like, yeah, it's an artificial vision intelligence system. That was an idea for the question from the agricultural field. Yeah.
Okay.
So yes. Do we have any other more questions? Final call to ask questions.
Yeah. No, I really loved this session because it was not many would step into these doors because more talking about technicality and other things. But I thought let's leave the technicality aside. So
Okay. Yes.
I hope if there are no further questions.
Yes. I don't see any more questions coming in. So yes, let's call for a wrap.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prasanna. Thank you for a beautiful session over generative AI solutions. And yes, hoping to have few more sessions in future too. Excuse me. And folks, yes, I have dropped few links in a chat section that will help you to take your learning further. And yes, thank you all once again.
Thank you, Parth.
Hope
Thank
you'll
you,
have a
everyone,
good,
for.
great evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Parth. Thanks, everyone, for taking time. Have a great day.
So yes, the slides are going to be available. Yes, Harry, uh, the session is been recorded. You can watch it later as well. No worries.
Thank you, Hari.